Hey friends, welcome back to Guess What? Compliance can be simple. I'm your host, Dr. Natasha Guess. And if you're new here, welcome. If you've been with me throughout this whole series, thank you for spending this time with me. Now, over the last several episodes, we've talked about compliance in the operation. The series focused on helping small and mid-sized healthcare practices embed compliance into everyday workflows so they can reduce risk, strengthen operations, and be better prepared for audits and regulatory oversight. Today, we're wrapping this up with one simple question. Could this happen in your organization? Let's get into today's episode. When most people think about a federal compliance investigation, they picture something big, a major ransomware attack, a multimillion-dollar fraud case, or a national news story. But sometimes it starts with just one patient. In late 2025, the Office of Civil Rights announced a settlement with Concentra Health Services after investigating a complaint from a single patient who said they weren't given timely access to their medical records. One complaint. That's genuinely all it took for OCR to start asking questions. The investigation ended in a settlement, a monetary payment, and a corrective action plan requiring the organization to improve its compliance processes. Sit with that for a second. Not a breach, not a cyber attack, not thousands of affected patients. One patient exercising one HIPAA right. When I read this enforcement action, I didn't see a records request. I saw a leadership opportunity. Because every patient request tells you something about the systems behind your practice. If one patient asks for their records, does your staff actually know what to do? Who receives the request? Who tracks the deadline? Who verifies it got sent? And who follows up if something falls through the cracks? Those aren't HIPAA questions. Those are operational questions. And regulators are usually evaluating the operations behind the outcome, not just the outcome itself. And one of the biggest misconceptions I hear is this: we've never had a complaint. And that's great, but it's not the same thing as being prepared. The practices that respond well when a complaint comes in didn't suddenly get organized after OCR called. They were organized before the complaint was ever filed. Documented workflows, clear accountability, training that actually reflects how the work gets done, and monitoring that catches issues before your patients do. That's what operational compliance actually looks like. Now, over these 8 episodes, we've explained what it really takes to build strong compliance operations. From understanding how regulators think and identifying common compliance gaps to strengthen documentation, we've talked about assigning ownership and building systems that support your practice every day, not just during an audit. And at first glance, those might look like separate topics. They're not. They all come back to one question. Can your practice show that compliance is part of how it operates every single day? Not just when an auditor shows up, not just when there's a complaint, not just when a policy gets updated. Every single day. So let me leave you with one final question. If a patient filed a complaint against your practice tomorrow, if OCR opened an investigation next week, if they ask for your documentation, your policies, your training records, your risk analysis, your vendor oversight processes, and evidence that leadership is actively monitoring compliance, what story would your practice actually tell? Would the documentation reflect how your practice really operates? Or would you find yourself trying to build the operation after the investigation has already started? Because by the time regulators ask for evidence, they expect it to already exist. Here's my challenge for you. This week, don't start with your strongest area. Start with the one operational process that came to mind while you were listening today. The one that made you think, we really need to work on that. That's your starting point. And it's not because it's easy. It's because it's your greatest opportunity to actually reduce your organizational risk or your practice risk. One thing I do hope that you take away from this series is that compliance was never about creating more work. It's about creating better systems that protect your patients, support your staff, systems that strengthen your practice, and systems that let you respond with confidence if regulators ever do come knocking. Compliance isn't built in a binder. It isn't built during an audit. It's built every day through the operational decisions leaders make. And that is an important one for you to understand. Now, if you've been with me throughout the Compliance in the Operations series, thank you so much. I hope these conversations help you see compliance a little differently and not as a checklist, but as an operational advantage that protects your practice, your patients, and your reputation. But if you're not confident your compliance operations would hold up under scrutiny today, don't wait for an investigation to expose the gaps. The Compliance Confidence Assessment is a tool built to help healthcare leaders find operational weaknesses before they become audit findings or enforcement actions or costly disruptions. You'll get a personalized compliance risk score and a practical action plan with clear next steps to strengthen your compliance operations. You'll find a link in today's show notes. Remember, what regulators find tomorrow is usually decided by the operational choices leaders make today. Keep it simple, stay compliant, and protect your patients. I'm Dr. Natasha Guess. Thank you for listening to Guess What? Compliance Can Be Simple. I'll see you in the next episode.